Yep.
That's it.
Yep. Okay, so the second group we dig into is the running backs. Well, I put the three main ones we have here. Then we have Taiwan Jones, who's a special teams guy.
Scotty.
Gilliam, who I didn't list here, is Blackshire, who's the undrafted rookie free agent. That's mainly because I couldn't find much on him, so I kind of ran out of room on my
It
slide. So I'm
happens.
like,
It
we'll just talk
happens.
about him a little bit. So we'll
Scotty's in the
start.
house, by the way,
Yeah.
Mikey.
Oh, what's
Mr.
going on,
Scott.
Scotty? How you doing, bud? We'll start with our 1A, Devin Singletary, who had 188 carries last year, 870 yards, 7 touchdowns, 40 catches, 228 yards, one touchdown. He had 5 fumbles though last year. I didn't realize he had 5 fumbles. This guy averages like 6 yards a carry.
Yep.
It's crazy in the pros. In his career, he has 495 carries for 2,332 yards.
That's not a lot of
touchdowns.
carries.
That's
by the
not,
way, guys. That's
not.
nothing. That's
like
nothing.
considering Derrick Henry had like 350 in most years, and we're talking about 495 in 3 years.
Yeah, that's super low, guys.
He had less than 200 carries, and he had 870 rushing yards last year.
Yeah. He's not been used correctly.
He had over 1,000 all-purpose yards last year, which is what you want.
Very good
for a guy who splits time. You can't ask for much. Duke, I don't have Duke on here either. I ran out of space for Duke Johnson. Honestly, he's kind of on the bubble. I think Duke and Blackshire and Taiwan Jones.
I think
all bubble guys.
Yeah, I think Duke. I think Duke is getting up there in age, and we got a lot of younger guys in the room still. Devin Singletary is still young. James Cook is still young. Zach Moss is still young. Taiwan Jones is a special teamer. He's not going to be anytime running the ball soon. Reggie Gilliam is a fullback. He's back there blocking pretty much. But what I do like about Duke Johnson, it will be interesting with the whole Zach Moss thing, because he kind of does what Zach Moss does, but I think he's a better pass catcher. And I think
Duke Johnson actually does what James Cook does.
Yes, but I think he does. I'll be honest with you. What I saw last year when he played for the Dolphins, I thought he was pretty strong going up the middle on some of those runs.
That's because they couldn't run outside. That's why he was going up the middle.
But Zach Moss going up, like, I kind of felt like he was a little stronger in that aspect. Now, listen, I think it'll come down to preseason with those two. But go ahead, Mikey.
So we know Singletary and Cook is pretty much a lock. We know Gilliam, is that H-back tight end special teams guy. I think he's going to be on this team. So it's going to come down to Moss, Taiwan Jones, and Duke Johnson. Taiwan Jones may make it for a special team prowess if we don't see any of the rookies step up. Taiwan Jones is not a running back. Let's be perfectly honest. He has 53 carries in his career. He's a special teams guy.
That's all he's been his whole career, pretty much.
Yeah. So we'll see if we keep that. Zach Moss, and I know Scott Blakely comes in and says, how many running backs we keep, and he doesn't see Moss on the team. Moss has another year after this on his contract. Bean doesn't give up on his draft picks.
Third round too. So it's not a big contract.
He's cheap labor, and I think it's going to come down because you have to remember Singletary's in his last year, so maybe he comes back, maybe he doesn't. Duke Johnson's on a 1-year deal. Zach Moss has 2 years. Taiwan Jones 1 year. James Cook on a 4-year. So at the end of the day, I have a feeling Zach Moss is going to get that benefit of the doubt, and it's going to be these 3 guys. Zach Moss may not be active every week. He may be in that Breida / Yeldon role where he is not a game day dress, because if Taiwan Jones makes it as a special teamer, we can't keep 5 running backs.
No, it's not. That's not going to happen. And Jason, see, I kind of disagree with that. I don't think Singletary has anything to prove. I think Singletary's done a pretty good job, to be honest with you. He just wasn't
especially
used
with
right.
the O line that we have, the run game that we have.
With a bad O line, He wasn't used in 2020 at all, right? Like, I mean, we totally went away from the run. This year, it took a while for Dable to even really get him going, and that wasn't towards the end of the season. And he's still averaging like almost 5 yards through his career, which is very good. Like, that's not nothing to like be ashamed of. Like, that's a really good stat if you can average that. And like Mikey said earlier, he did over 1,000 all-purpose yards. That's very good. You know, can we get better? Of course you can. And I don't think somebody also came in saying they're going to split carries. I don't think they're going to be splitting carries. I think you will see James Cook in there, but I think it'll be a lot more on screen passes, passing downs. I think he'll get carries, but I think Singletary has earned that right to be the lead back, in my opinion. He's shown that last season. I think McDermott knows that as well. And I think with this new addition of the O-line and Cromer, you're going to see a much better Singletary than you ever seen, in my opinion. Plus, like Mikey said, his contract's coming up, and that's going to look even better for teams trying to sign him. He's going to get paid somewhere if he has a good season, right, Mikey? I mean,
yeah,
more than likely.
That's what he's looking for. And at the end of the day,
I don't blame him.
Singletary had 188 carries, Moss had 96. So I would expect about those 96 carries to go to James Cook.
Exactly.
And I see James Cook doing more of the passing game stuff. But at the end of the day, I do think it's going to be Singletary and Moss as the two lead ball carriers, with Cook being that weapon, doing a lot of different things. Taiwan Jones, we talked a little bit about him. He's a special teams only. Reggie Gilliam is special teams and fullback / tight end.
I like him, by the way.
I think he's going to make the team as well.
Yeah.
And then that brings us to Duke Johnson and Blackshire, both on the bubble. Duke Johnson could carve out a role here if he can do some special team stuff, and maybe that pushes Zach Moss off the roster. But it's an uphill battle for him.
And also too, I see Bean is very good at trading players that are potential cuts. So if he is thinking about cutting one of these guys, there's a team out there that's going to have an injury. And this is any position, by the way, but you could see like a Duke Johnson having a decent preseason, competing with Moss. Yeah, and maybe Moss goes, or maybe even Duke Johnson. Maybe they did both equally as well, but you don't want to cut them. Try to get something for him. So I don't know if they're cut candidates. I think they're more trade candidates, depending how they do preseason. Because Duke Johnson, I forget who said it, he's not a bad back. He actually did pretty well for a guy that I think he was like not on a team for like 1 year, 2 seasons, something like that.
So it's just last year. The year before that, he's with Houston.
Right. But he didn't play a long time. Like
he sat on the free agent market a long time last year before he got picked up by Miami
late in the season too.
Yeah,
when they were desperate, and I thought he gave him a boost. So there'll be a team like the Dolphins potentially that's desperate for a running back because maybe they got an injury or backup went down, and Bean is slick with that guy. So
let me ask you this question, Tommy. Could we possibly see a repeat of what happened during Singletary's rookie year and see Singletary get moved before the season?
I don't think so. I'll tell you why. Out of all
we saw Shady. We saw Shady.
I get
cut.
it. I do get that, but Shady was on a big. Cutting Shady saved them $8-point-something million. Yeah. Cutting Singletary, trading when that's not a big cap relief. That's one. Two, out of all these guys that I'm looking at, James Cook, Zach Moss, Taiwan Jones, Reggie Gilliam, Duke Johnson, none of those guys are like good pass blockers. And that's where Devin Singletary, I'm not saying he's great, but he's pretty good at pass blocking. So I can't see James Cook, like he's not a very good pass blocker. They've already said that it's something he has to work on. Zach Moss has not been good at pass blocking, in my opinion. Taiwan Jones won't obviously be a running back.
His numbers don't match what your opinion is.
No, I'm just saying. It's not only my opinion. Even Joe Marino said that. So he's not. I'm just saying. Like I'm not
stats
the only
don't
one.
match up to that.
I get it, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying, James Cook would not be a good pass blocker, in my opinion. Not now. Drayton Singletary, and not only that, he knows the offense very well. James Cook has a lot to learn still. Zach Moss would be your lead back. Like, I wouldn't, bro. That would not be good, in my opinion. You're talking about getting rid of, when we got rid of Shady, we had a young Singletary who we knew could do this stuff, right? We had an older vet in Gore, who actually we knew could do those things, right? I don't know if Duke Johnson could come in and be the lead back like a Frank Gore, because that's what it was that year, correct? Frank Gore was the lead back for maybe 3 games and then 4 games. And then Singletary took over.
I think it was 6 games and then Singletary took over.
Right, which was fine. But my point is,
you tell me Zach Moss couldn't be the lead back for a few games before Cook took over?
No, I don't think Cook would be. I don't think Cook is ready yet for that main role. I think Cook will be ready. How's
he any different than Singletary is for his rookie year?
He has very limited rushes in college. He's low.
Singletary did have 900 carries in college.
He did, but that's why they called him motor. And he was also. I don't think James Cook is quite ready to be the guy yet, in my opinion. Yeah. I think he'll learn. I think he'll get better. I think he'll be on the field a lot more than what we think. But I just don't think he's that lead back yet. And I don't think it's worth cutting Singletary or trading him at this point.
So who do you
let him play his contract out?
So looking at this, who do you expect to be on the roster come week 1?
Okay. So I have Devin Singletary, James Cook, obviously, for sure. Mm-hmm. I think Zach Moss, it's going to come down to Zach Moss and
Duke Johnson
in preseason. But we're not suiting up 3 running backs. I think one of them make it, but one of them doesn't get dressed in certain games. And I can see Zach Moss beating out Duke Johnson. So I have Devin Singletary, James Cook, and Zach Moss to start the season. And I think Zach Moss,
Taiwan Jones as the break
special
glass,
team,
and break
Gilliam as the block. Correct.
And Gilliam as the special teamer and blocker. Okay.
Correct.
And then that room, obviously Ken Dorsey will be in that room at times, and then running back coach Kelly Skipper, who's been here for a while, and everyone seems to love. So Daniel Garies comes in. Jason comes in, says Motor, Cook, Moss. Garies says Motor, Cook, Moss. Jones makes the final roster. I agree.
Yep.
I just don't like Duke Johnson has such an uphill battle.
He does. He's competing against younger guys.
He was a fantastic signing until we drafted James Cook, and James Cook basically took that spot.
I agree. I 100% agree that when we were trying to get what was the guy from Washington, Mikey?
J.D.
McKissick. And that deal fell through. Duke Johnson was like that guy. It's like, okay, we can get Duke. But once they drafted James Cook, like you said, I think that put Duke Johnson behind the 8 ball right there. So he's I think he has an uphill battle. He's going to have to show out in camp pretty much. And
I do agree. So okay, so that kind of covers us where we're at. Jason says Johnson will end up with the Panthers. The Panthers are always looking for running backs. You're right there, bud.
Yeah, I would. And he's a trade game. Yeah, and we can get something for him. I'm telling you, I don't think he's a cut. I think he'll get
more of a late round 6th, 7th round pick for him.
Yes, which is fine. I'll take a 6. Yeah, why not? You can.
Well, they always are looking.